this is Julie, and I'm recording this message to you just a few days before the launch of the Mother's Quest podcast season 5. I am so excited to bring you many more powerful, reflective conversations with inspiring mothers who have so much to teach us. And I also want to commit to bringing you a little bit more of my own voice this season. I'm going to be recording what I'm calling MINISODEs, bite-sized reflections from living my own epic life. And these will be more unedited, unscripted. They'll happen either as recorded Facebook Lives that I've done in my private Mother's Quest Facebook group, or they may be something that I'm recording on Voxer while I'm walking my new puppy Luna or out on my favorite hike at Laurelwood Park. Maybe I'll catch a few of these when I'm out and about with my 2 boys. So this first one is something I recorded in the group last week as I was explaining something that I've been dealing with during this time, getting ready to launch and having a bit of a rocky start to my 2020. But I am definitely feeling like the clouds are clearing a bit, more clear, more excited, really ready now to launch the season and to step forward into living this epic life in this year, 2020. Hope you enjoy this little mini-sode. There'll be more coming your way. And please make sure you're ready and have subscribed to the podcast in time for the first episode of season 5 with New York Times bestselling author Peggy Orenstein. Hi, and welcome to Mother's Quest, a podcast for moms like me ready to live our own truly epic life. I'm Julie Neal, a life and leadership coach, community builder, writer, and mom to 2 high-energy boys who challenge me to grow into my best self. I'll be right there. Where was I? Mother's Quest community, it's Julie, and I haven't really checked in a while. I had a conversation today and have been seeing some things and having some thoughts that made me want to share with you what's on my mind. And as always, I hope that whatever I'm sharing may be something that is also happening for you or resonates for you. And in sharing, it might support you. So I had a coaching client this morning, and we started out with a check-in about how our year has been going so far. We both were like just commiserating about all of the things that just haven't really gone our way and how we both keep wanting to feel like, oh, it's behind me now, I can start fresh again, and haven't been able to for various reasons. It's all the things, and I'm sure that you all have your own list of things. Children who are sick, emergency room visits, worries about what's happening in our political world. You know, for me, it was also like some emotional recollections and memories that was sparked by my conversation with Peggy Orenstein, the author of Boys and Sex, a whole range of things. And we really felt like a moment of relief to just know that like we weren't alone in our experience. And that we did feel like you have to stay in it as long as it takes. But that we know that sense of hopefulness too, that things will shift. They'll shift when the time is right. They'll shift eventually. But an interesting thing happened throughout the session. We were doing actually an epic life assessment for her where we look at her whole epic life wheel, and she rated her life on a scale from 0 to 10 and talked about what she wanted more or less of. And of course, by the end, there were all of these things going on in her life and things that she had done to really celebrate amazing things. And the same has been true in my life since 2020 began. In the midst of all the things that have felt really hard, there have also been some amazing things. Just thinking about, even though it's been a really challenging time for my son, Ryan, my teen, he has shown tremendous resilience. He hasn't given up on himself. He has persevered. He's had to find different ways to define success for him. And it's been painful to be alongside him, but I can also see that amazing growth. Other amazing things like getting to interview Peggy Orenstein was like an epic snapshot moment. My mom turned 80 and I worked on a book with my family to share all these incredible memories and moments and ways in which we appreciate her. And for every one of the things I've named, there are lots of other things too that have really been special. So I saw a post from Lex Vernon today, and I'll post a link to it in the comments. But one of the things she talked about was just a tale of 2 narratives that, you know, so often in this Instagrammable world, we only share the highlights, but there are also moments that are hard. But then what did she say? Sometimes we feel like success cancels our struggle, and they really can live alongside one another. They can both be true. That's what I'm really thinking about today. The fact that like if your year has been challenging, it's really okay to honor that, and it's okay to share that. And some people may not be that comfortable with it. I had somebody close to me that reached out to me and was like, what is that image that you shared on Instagram? I thought it was actually humorous. It was like a squiggly black illustration, and it said like, this is my mood today. And I was like, this is basically my mood this year. And she was really worried about me. She was like, you're really out there with this message, and like, but you don't seem okay. And I really had to check myself. And A Tale of Two Narratives, Beth is saying, yeah, the both and. Whereas Lindsay Perra would always say there's like a third door. So I had to like really have a gut check about, is it okay to own that that has been my mood for 2020? And what was my motivation? And my motivation was to be honest and real, and to not feel like it's always great, and to know that like I can feel that way, and I can also be okay, and I can also have success. So there are 3 things that I just wanted to offer you that in reflecting today have really served me well during this period, which has been challenging. One is to not feel like I should just suffocate the emotions or just expel the emotions, but to find ways to integrate them. And funnily enough, there's so many similarities to the place that I was right before I launched Mother's Quest, which was right after Trump was elected. And I reached out to Navjeet Kandola, who was my first podcast guest, and asked her to do a session with me because I felt like I was in like grief and fear. And I felt like I needed to figure out how to get all those emotions out because I couldn't create. And in that session, which I talk about in my episode introduction, she actually helped me realize that what I needed to do was figure out how to integrate my emotions and how to find a more empowering stance to be in. And so I reached out to Navjeet again in this place that I've been the last few months, and did another session with her. And I've been trying to get ready to launch season 5 of the Mother's Quest podcast and feeling in that stuck kind of sad place. And having this time with her to really identify all the things going on in my life right now and where I am in my own journey and my creative process, and to realize I'm not the same person I was 3+ years ago when I launched Mother's Quest. And what are the new learnings and how do I integrate the person I am today was so healing and helpful. And for the first time got me feeling like, oh, I think I may be ready to step into a creative mode again and to share. So the first thing that has been helping me is to realize it's okay to integrate our emotions, to not feel like you have to expel them. And then, inspired by Alexia's post today, to hold the continuum of both. You can have success and good things happening in your life, and you can also have things that are feeling really hard. So that's the first thing. The second thing is find your guides. I am always about this and sharing with me. When you feel alone, it's so helpful to reach out. I'm so grateful I reached out to Navjeet. I'm so grateful that I am able to bring guests on the podcast. A few of us from my original virtual Mother's Quest Circle are on the Voxer channel, and we are often checking in with one another there. And the other day, I was in the car with Ryan, and I think I had pressed, it was on speaker, so he heard a moment of it, and then I took it off quickly. And I said, oh, this is just Katie from my Mother's Quest Circle. And he said to me, Mom, you really have such a great support network in Mother's Quest. This is making me teary. And I said, Ryan, you're right. I really do. And that's something that I've built over time and that I'm so grateful for. And so whether those guides are experts that I bring on that have become friends or are becoming part of the community, or people who've been part of my community for years, or people who I've coached and are clients that we're learning from each other and we're mirrors for one another. There's so many guides all around us, and we don't have to feel alone as we're on this journey. So that's the second thing that I've been thinking about. And then the third has been just sort of doubling down on self-care, the epic I invest in yourself. There have been lots of moments over the last few months where I typically just keep going, stay up late. I have been saying, I just have to go to sleep. Speaking of guides, Jessica Stone, who just joined, is an executive functioning coach that we hired to support Ryan. And then I realized that all those same things she's helping Ryan with, I need help with. So she's been helping me too. And that just feels so good to identify the areas of growth and feel like I can get better at these things and I can get support. So doubling down on self-care has included investing in coaches and people that I need to help me where I need to grow. It has sometimes meant that I actually get into bed earlier than my night owl ways and say, I'm just tired. I need rest. Lately, it has meant going on my deck in the afternoon and lying flat on my back for 5 minutes and looking up at the sky. And if there are clouds, watching the clouds pass. It has meant working with Samantha Brody on my health and getting tests back and realizing where there are places that I need to adjust my diet or get additional tests. And sometimes it's also been like calling a friend and saying, can we go to dinner? And after that, I'm going to get a massage because I just need some time to myself. And I know that those are not all things maybe that work for you or accessible to you, but just the idea of in your own way, finding some way to bring some extra care to yourself, I think is so essential. I would love to hear from you. What have you been holding? Has there been the tale of two narratives in your life in this 2020 year? What have you found are some of the keys to helping you navigate that, if so? And then I wanted to invite you to something you've probably heard me sharing about. It's one of my favorite things to facilitate. It's called the Spark Your E.P.I.C Year Workshop. And I actually had a date set for this earlier this month, and I wasn't really in the place to reset, to be honest, which is probably why 2 people came to the call and we ended up doing something really powerful and totally different than what I was planning on doing. I feel much, much more ready to hold space for this process now. And sometimes things just have to come in the right timing, not the time and deadline you put on it. But it is a chance to come together in community for me to lead you through a reflective process that's based on a milestone hike that I've done again and again for myself and for clients and even for my son, Ryan. If you haven't heard my episode with him, where we recorded our reflections after we went on the hike together, it's one of my all-time favorite, might be my actual favorite. But basically, we imagine ascending a summit together. And on the way up, I invite you to reflect on what this last chapter that's closing has been for you. And that may be the calendar year of 2019 or some other kind of chapter. At the top, we identify what you learned, what you want to carry with you, and also what you want to leave behind, what is not serving you. And I've got my photo of my big bad bonfire. We can imagine throwing those things that we no longer need. And then we start to imagine what the year is ahead and set intentions across the epic guideposts. So if you're at all intrigued or curious, if you feel the calling to press pause on all the busyness, to reset, to set some new intentions, to do it in community, realize you're not alone, there will be space for those who want to share. And always those who share end up helping to light the way for other people on the call. I really encourage you to register and to join us. It is, as I mentioned, one of my favorite processes to facilitate and to hold. And it's really an honor to do that for you. But I've posted the event in the group. I would say that the 3 things I identified that have been really helpful for me about space to integrate your emotions, a place to find your guides, and doubling down on self-care would all be true if you are able to come to the Spark Your E.P.I.C Year Workshop. So if you have any questions or reactions, please share them in the comments. It was really nice to check back in with you and to honor the full range of what I've been experiencing and what I know many of you have been experiencing since this new year has begun. All right, take care. I hope that I will see many of you. Thanks so much for tuning in to this mini-sode of the Mother's Quest podcast. I hope you may join us this Friday for the Spark Your E.P.I.C Year Workshop. I would love to have you there for an opportunity to reflect together and reset in this year 2020. Until next time.